Hey, welcome back everybody to the spring deep dive of all 138 teams from that 50,000 feet perspective, where I go ahead and give you an individual breakdown of what to expect from each team going into the season, those ideal additions, as well as those not so ideal subtractions from this team, as well as give you the record prediction for each FBS program within college football going into 2026. And today we find ourselves back in the Midwestern part of the country where we introduce our 128 team in college football. 129 will be skipped for right now because they are a Conference CUSA team and their schedule is not finalized as of yet. So we'll have to wait until another time until the CUSA provides a revised schedule following the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. But for now, we preface today's conversation on the Akron Zips, who do come in as a 128 team. So if you're excited for this deep dive as well, from that 50,000 feet perspective, definitely do a couple of things for me. Hit that like button and then also hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new, because there's a lot of work that goes in the background for producing these spring rankings. And so, with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into it. So this starts with the head coach of the Akron football team, and that is Joe Moorhead. And you're gonna hear me say his record, and you think that's somebody that doesn't necessarily justify, being a long-term coach at Akron. But the last 2 years, he actually does have the Zips going in the right direction, in spite of the some of the institutional issues that they face, as well as the APR issues that they face as recently as last year. 2024, they went 4-8 and they had some nice wins in the month of November. And then 2025, they went 5-7. But even then, there was a couple of games there, whether it's the UAB game, whether it's the wagon wheel ball game against Kent State, even that Wyoming game at the very beginning of the season, where if they're able to make a few more plays, or in the case of Wyoming, their offense bothered to show up, you're talking about all of a sudden an 8-4 football team. And while this team was not going to go to a bowl game regardless because of those APR restrictions, you're talking about a team at the same time that had some really good moments in the season and could have been even better moments. So part of the reason why that was able to happen was the offensive line and actually generally the trench play. The trench play was better than expected, and that helped drive Akron's success. But this year, it's going to be a little bit of a different story here because I am concerned overall with the overall trench play going into this season. They did lose both Masai King and Keelan Davis on the offensive line. King transferring to Iowa State and could be someone that starts for the Iowa State Cyclones this year. And then the same can go for Keelan Davis, who transfers to Pitt. He's an interior offensive lineman. He's someone that could also be in the mix to start for the Pitt Panthers this fall as well. So that could be an issue that they're going to have to navigate. Also, they're going to have to replace multiple defensive linemen too, with Julian Leventure and Bruno Dahl both going into the transfer portal as well. Leventure did go to Texas Tech, and he was a pivotal part of that defensive line last year, where they had 10 and a half TFLs, which is really impressive for an defensive tackle. So I definitely wanted to throw that out there. Constantly being double teamed and still getting plays, of top of Bruno Dahl, who is an edge rusher. He's now at UCF, and he was an all MAC player last year. So that's a pretty big loss for this Akron football team, along with some couple of key guys in the skill positions rooms, right? Isaiah Polk is a big example. He goes to Oklahoma State now. He had over 500 yards and 8 touchdowns last season. And then Elijah Reed, the corner, that does end up going to Utah, and he had multiple interceptions last year as well. So there is a lot of pieces that you're looking at for Akron that they're going to have to replace in the transfer portal. And unfortunately for them, looking at the transfer portal additions, nobody that they really brought in is somebody that had production at their previous stop. So it's a lot of potential here for Akron. So the ceiling is maybe a little bit higher, and I'm looking at Akron as potentially a team that could go bowling now that they have the waiver. So they are eligible for a bowl game this season if everything goes right. But as of right now, that's why they find themselves in the bottom 12 to 15 teams in the country for me, is because they lost quite a bit of talent in the transfer portal and they didn't necessarily backfill. Now, it's not a completely empty war chest for Joe Moorhead going into year number 6 either. You're talking about Marcel Williams still being here, and he was a second team All MAC player last season. Same with Jordan Gant, the running back for this Akron football team. He was also a second team All MAC player. So whoever ends up being the new quarterback, which is something that will have to be worked out, presumably it is going to be Ross Poffenberger from North Texas, possibly getting that starting quarterback job. And he's an intriguing person to watch, I think, in Joe Moorhead's offensive system. But we haven't seen Reese Poffenberger play a ton of college football. We know that he's been a part of college football for multiple years, but just being on a roster versus actually starting is two different things. And it's a wider gap than what people realize, even at the G6 ranks. So there is a fair number of concerns, most notably for me, the trench play, which I think is going to take a significant hit going into this season. Now, let's go ahead and jump into what I think Akron's record is going to be. So I'm going to throw the record graphic up now. So, like I mentioned, not only is Akron coming in as a bottom 10 to 15 team in the country from just a pure talent roster perspective for me, but this is also one of the bottom programs in the country as well. A bottom 5 program coming in to see what 133rd program in the country. And that's just me taking the more holistic standpoint in terms of what a program has been the last 5 years and not trying to predict forward in terms of what I think a program is going to be a couple of years from now, right? So that's what that program ranking stands for. And right away, the non conference is going to be relatively brutal outside of the Robert Morris game. You're talking about Wake Forest and work that Jake Dicker did in year number 1. That's going to be a rough game. PJ Fleck also has had a really good track record in terms of handling business against G6 teams as well. And then UNLV, they have them at home. It's a cross country road trip for the Rebels. But UNLV is one of those teams that is a dark horse threat to not only win the Mountain West, but they're a dark horse threat to possibly represent the G6 in terms of the college football playoff this year. I think they have a chance to be that good, and the schedule lines up very well for the Rebels, but I'll talk about that in a later episode. But then, even in conference play, it doesn't get much easier either. You do open things up at Central Michigan, solid program under Matt Dickard, who had a nice season. So that's going to be a tough game for them. Chuck Martin is the best head coach in this conference as well. So going on the road to play them will not be easy. Western Michigan is going to be your defending champions of the MAC, and they're going to be looking to repeat here in the Big 2026 as well. And then even some of their more toss-up games, Eastern Michigan, Chris Creighton, I think does have a distinct coaching advantage over Joe Moorhead at this time. So I wouldn't be surprised if Eastern Michigan goes on the road and beats them too. Ohio has always been a really good program. UMass and Buffalo are improved teams. And then, of course, the wagon wheel this year is happening on Kent State's campus. And I talked about in the Max spring, like pre-spring preview with the rest of the cast, but really like what Mark Carney has done and closing in on Joe Moorhead, even though he's been the head coach for 4 last years. So because that game's also on the road, that's going to be a tough sell as well. So that's why I have Akron as a 1-11 football team. I do think they beat the Robert Morris game. I don't think that it's a complete safe win though, because it is a bottom feeder program at the FBS right now. So that is still a losable game, but I think they should win that still. But then beyond that, there's quite a few competitive games, but I just don't think the trench play is going to be there enough to really win a couple of these toss-up games. So a low baseline for Akron, unless we see some good work done in spring camp as well as in summer ball. But for now, I have Akron going as 1-11 in the 2026 campaign. But definitely let me know what you guys think down below. Are you a little bit higher on this Akron team? Do you even think that they can go 0-12? Like what my floor does suggest for this Akron football team, let me know down in the comment section. for now, this is Jake from College Football Red Zone signing off. Glad that you guys been enjoying this series. But until next time, hope you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.